Thank you so much. And it's such a thrill to be here. And hello, everyone. So we are here, and you see my cat is very interested because I actually wanted to share with you uh, my little dwarf hamsters, or at least one of my dwarf hamsters that I have in my office. So as most of you are probably in your home right now, or have been because of COVID, I too am teaching from my home office. So I now can at least have some of my animals around me. And so this is one of my dwarf hamsters. And so they are down here, but I brought them a little bit closer to me, which is something that my cat is very interested in, trying to figure out why I have them so close to me. So you might see her in the background too. But as Andrew said, so CHAIRE is all about thinking about the human-animal interaction. And basically, in a nutshell, our main goal is that we want to make human and non-human animals' lives better. And we want to do that through exploring different topics in research. We want to do that through education and thinking about ways for us to share the knowledge that we gain from some of our research opportunities. And we certainly want to do that through outreach opportunities. And Brittany will share with you a little bit later some of the outreach opportunities that CHAIRE has done in the past, and hopefully things that you can get involved in the future. Of course, those opportunities are virtual now, so we're really happy to be doing this with you tonight. We hope this is actually just the beginning of a partnership that we're developing here. So we hope to get to know some of you and know this community a little bit better. And there's so much work that needs to be done because we really don't know all the effects and all of the positive effects that we have from just being around animals. And so there's so much more for us to do and to understand. And we would love to partner with you to understand that a little bit better, especially with, but I wanted to at least give you a little bit of a concept of, why is it that animals play such a special role in our society? So I just kind of want to set the stage, in other words, for everyone tonight. So basically, why is it that we think animals hold such a special place for us? Well, if you look at some of the evidence that is out there and some of the scholars that have really tried to understand this a little bit better, most of us will probably point to E.O. Wilson and thinking about something known as the biophilia hypothesis. So this idea is that humans are innately interested in animals due to evolutionary forces. And through those evolutionary forces, it made us basically pay attention to animals because there was at that point a benefit to our survival. And so we saw that we started to seek interactions with animals on many different levels. Certainly food and fiber was kind of one of the first things that we did, and then thinking about security and some of those other kind of physical needs. But then they started moving into more of an assistance of helping us with some of our emotional and even mental health type needs. And so we actually see animals, again, we would argue that we've just had them within our environment, and through those evolutionary forces, we have developed together. It's not like we were somehow separate from nature. And so because of those relationships, we now have this innate tendency to want to be around them, to want to be around non-human animals. And I'm just going to shorten that to animals now, even though we recognize humans are animals. Another person that we can think about is Richard Louv. So he talks about something known as the nature deficit disorder. And this is what he argues is that by disconnecting from nature, again, because of these evolutionary forces that were upon our species, if we now start disconnecting from nature, it's actually starting to cause harm to us, that we have the potential to add struggles to even the other struggles that we are already experiencing. And he talks about this, especially with childhood development and thinking about children who are sometimes, completely indoors, only using electronic devices, not really exploring nature and being a part of nature, and knowing what it feels like to have an ant walk on your hand, and those types of ideas. So that's kind of where we start, right? As far as why we have such a continued relationship with animals and we find them so special. And today, of course, they serve many different roles for us. Everything from coworkers to physical support to friends and family, confidants, right? We think about animals even as therapists or co-therapists at least. We certainly use and have animals as a part of our everyday life. And it may not be that you have an animal inside your home with you, but that you still engage with animals in many different ways. And I would argue that almost every day there's some kind of interaction with an animal. And sometimes we are cognizant of those interactions, and sometimes we really don't even notice it because they're just part of the landscape, right? But if we look at the US households, we see that over 70% of our households have at least one pet in their household. Most of them are dogs. So we have about 63 million households that have dogs. We have about 43 million that have cats. And then it goes down from there where we have a freshwater fish is kind of the next, the third largest. But we also see birds. We see other small animals like, hamsters. I also have ferrets. We see reptiles. We see saltwater fish. And even horses, obviously not in your house, but that are considered to be companion animals. And so when we really start to realize, again, what a special place these animals have in our society today, we can realize the importance and why they are so important to us based on our evolutionary history. But what we do need to know is that we don't have to have necessarily a full-blown relationship. We don't have to have a pure bond. So there are different kind of scales, if you will, of the way that we connect with animals. Sometimes it can be just for a very short interaction. And that can be even an interaction that's somewhat distant. You may not even be touching the animal, but you could just be in the presence of the animal. But yet you're still engaging some of your senses. You might still be able to hear the animal. You might still be able to see the animal. You might still be able to smell the animal. So engaging those senses actually help with the release of endorphins and dopamine, which are kind of, our happy hormones, right? So we experience that by interacting with animals. We also know that there is a reduction in our blood pressure and our stress hormones, in our cholesterol and our triglycerides. All of those things we see reduction in when we are having experiences with animals. The other thing that we think about as to why animals, I think sometimes people prefer to be with animals than even with other humans, because we think about animals as not passing judgment, right? That we can, again, have a relationship with an animal in the sense of thinking of them as family, thinking of them as friend, thinking of them as a confidant. And we recognize that they are not passing judgment regardless of what's going on with us. And so we think about animals in that way as having that very special opportunity to share time with someone who is not going to be passing judgment on you. When we think about specifically for our community today and thinking about brain injury survivors, we actually see some work that's starting in this area in thinking about animals as far as a therapeutic. And I think you're going to hear maybe more about that, from what I understand, next week or in a couple of weeks anyways. But when we look at some of the research that's available, we do see that survivors basically rate themselves as more alert and more concentrated when an animal is present in those type of situations. We also see that survivors tend to be more motivated to start and stay involved in activities when an animal is present. And we also find from the therapist assessment that it matches what the self-assessment is, which is that they too feel that the survivors are more concentrated when an animal is present, when they have those kinds of interactions. So basically, I think that is what I wanted to just kind of give you as food for thought as you start to hear more about some of the animal interactions from Kirsten, Brian, and Brittany. And so what I'm asking you to do, I'm going to kind of task you with something. I can't help it. I'm an educator, right? I'm going to task you with something to do here. What I'm going to ask you to do is that while you are listening to them and seeing what they are, what experiences they are having, I'd like for you to just kind of think about your own experiences and consider the opportunities that you may have to interact with animals. Again, it doesn't have to be an animal that you have in your home, but are there ways for you to still have rewarding opportunities and interactions with animals, rather that be sitting on your back patio, going to a park, maybe visiting someone who has an animal, whatever that case may be. Think about some of those opportunities within your own lives, because I think that once you start to really connect with other species other than the human species, you'll find out that it's actually quite rewarding. And so I'd like to thank you for your time today. And I'm, again, thrilled to be here. But I'm going to pass you off to Brittany Fischer. Now, Brittany Fischer is the program coordinator for CHAIRE, so for our center. So she can answer everything that there is to know about CHAIRE. But she is also was a former graduate student of mine as a master's student. She's already past that now. She's on to her PhD work in the College of Vet Med, and I'll let her explain some of the work that she's doing. It is involved with the idea of animal welfare and thinking about, for at least our master's project, it had to do with the cheetah at the Columbus Zoo. So that might be enough intrigue to get some questions going. So with that, Brittany, take it away.
Yes, my name is Brittany Fischer. As Dr. George said, and I'm the program coordinator of CHAIRE. So today I have with me my cat. His name is Baby Cat, very original. And then Bear is here as well. He's decided he's a little tired, so we'll see if you can see the rest of him later. But yeah, I've worked for CHAIRE for, let's see, my 2-year anniversary was in August. So I've had the pleasure of working for CHAIRE for just over 2 years now. And I am mainly in charge of outreach programs that we have done in the past. So pre-COVID, we were doing a lot of outreach opportunities for students, as well as the Columbus community. So we're definitely excited to engage in some more outreach opportunities on different platforms now that we're all getting used to functioning in this new virtual setting, but some examples of outreach opportunities that we have done in the past. So like Dr. George said, there's many different ways that we can interact with animals. So although I have 2 companion animals here with me today, there's many different animals that we can interact with. So an example of one event that we've done in the past was goat yoga. So that was a really great opportunity, and we definitely hope we can do that event in the future as well. But yeah, at the end, if you have any more questions about CHAIRE, I can definitely give you some more information, provide some more resources so you can find out some more information about us and the current research that we are doing. And again, hopes for some more outreach opportunities in the future. But I'm going to talk a little bit more now about who you're really here to see, right? You want to see these companion animals and learn a little bit more about them. So Bear is a rescue. I've had him for, let's see, 3 years now. So he's 5 years old. He is a pit bull boxer mix. So let's see if you can see him a little bit better. There you go. So he is just a companion dog. So he's just my pet. There are lots and lots of roles that dogs can play, as Dr. George mentioned. So, we have some working dogs. We have some dogs who are just companions. We have some hunting dogs. Lots and lots of different roles that this species plays. And dogs have been domesticated. So it's kind of debated in the literature, but dogs are definitely the species that's been domesticated the longest. So some scientists think that dogs have been domesticated for 20,000 years. Some think it's closer to 40,000. Now cats, it's even more debated. Some people will say that cats are not domesticated at all. Anyone who has a cat or has been around a cat in the past, you might agree, although he looks very cute right now. He's 10 years old, so he's a little bit more relaxed. But yeah, Bear is my companion animal. Like I said, I've had him for 3 years now. I got him from the Franklin County Dog Shelter. They did not know where he came from before they found him. They just found him on the street one day. And before I transitioned to working strictly virtually from home, Bear actually came to work with me. So Dr. George and I share an office in the Animal Sciences building on the Columbus campus. And Bear has a nice little setup, a nice bed behind my desk. And he used to come to work with me almost every day. And, you know, he was kind of a celebrity within my building. He had visitors almost every day. He pretty much just sleeps all the time. So people like to, you know, come take a break and, you know, pet him, say hi to him. Because there is a lot of literature out there saying that dogs do help to reduce your stress. As Dr. George mentioned, you know, this is definitely a growing field, and I can tell you that he's definitely helped reduce my stress over the last 3 years that I've had him. Like Dr. George mentioned, I am a student, so I am stressed out all the time. But you know, he definitely helps with that. So that's enough about my animals. So now I'm going to transition over. So we're going to learn a little bit about some different types of species. I'm very excited for you guys to meet some different animals, you know, because when we think about our relationship with animals and these types of interactions that we're having, sometimes we only think about these companion animals, and they are great, right? We love Bear. He provides a lot of comfort for us, but there's definitely more species where we can have these interactions. So I'm going to pass it over to Kirsten Nickles. So she grew up in Londonville, Ohio. She grew up on a beef cattle and grain farm. So she was very active in 4-H when she was she was a kid. She showed cattle, hogs, and horses. So if you're not familiar with 4-H, I'm sure she can give you some more information about that. Today, she still has several horses, and she works heavily with beef cattle at both Ohio State and at her family's farm. She also has a dog named Bailey, which we might get to see tonight. We'll see. And Bailey usually comes to work with her on the farm. So Kirsten, I will go ahead and hand it over to you.
There she is. This is Bailey. She's a little chunky. There is an echo. I had my phone on. There, that got rid of it. I had my phone on just so I don't have great service, so I had it on just in case, but that is a lot better. We'll just go with this. But yeah, so that's Bailey. Like Brittany said, she comes to work with me. Same as Bear. Everyone, when they want their work break, they come in and see her. And she actually loves the cows. She loves to be out here. The little baby behind me isn't too sure about her. She kind of disappeared over there. But actually, the two behind me are cows and her calf that we actually raised the one right behind me since she was a baby. And that's what my family does. We raise cattle for beef specifically. We don't do any dairy cows, which are kind of a totally different livestock production system. But most of our cows, if you've kind of been watching them behind me, it's kind of hard to see. Her head's in the way, but pretty much the cows handle themselves. A typical day for us, we come out, we feed the cows. And in the summertime, like now, they're pretty much self-sufficient. They go out and they graze grass. Every once in a while, this heifer actually, I got in just for this because she's pretty quiet. But we will feed them hay, or like right now we're chopping corn silage. So all the corn you guys see in the fields, the field corn right now that's kind of turning and drying up, we chop that, and that's what we feed them to get them through the winter when they can't go on pastures or snow, or if we don't want them to tear up the pastures because it's too wet. So really that's kind of our unique interaction, is that these animals obviously depend on us for feed, for water. You know, it's our job to be able to kind of understand their behavior, and because obviously a cow can't talk, right? So how do we know that they're feeling sick or they aren't feeling 100%? And it's our job to be able to go out in a group of cows and tell which ones aren't feeling great and get them in, and you know, if they need antibiotics or anything like that to help them feel better, just like if we went to the doctor, that's kind of our job. So I think going off the human animal interaction part of it, I really get pretty unique sides to both, because, you know, I have this in my home life, but then like Brittany said, I'm also a PhD student at Ohio State, so I do a lot of research. And I think what's the coolest with our interactions there is that we're getting so much useful data, and it's like Brittany and Kelly were kind of hinting at, it's beyond what you would even imagine, the data we can get from these animals and how unique they really are. So, you know, I just think that when we think of companion animals, we obviously think of our dogs and our cats and whatever else, but it's really fun coming to the farm. And honestly, like we talk about dogs, you know, decreasing your cortisol and things like that. For me, honestly, just coming out and sitting with the cows like this, watching them eat, you know, just sitting there quiet until they finally come up to you, because obviously they aren't like cats and dogs. They don't come running right up. Sometimes they will. That we've actually got some of ours pretty trained to a feed bucket. So if you bang on a feed bucket, they'll come running from the pasture field. But I just think it's something that, since they can't talk and they're not quite as, I guess, tame as what we would kind of classify our dogs and our cats as, you know, they don't come to names or anything like that. It's really kind of a different human-animal interaction. And I see myself, you know, we kind of talked about non-traditional interactions. I see myself even as I'm driving down the road and I see a cow, it's like almost puts a smile on my face because I just love spending so much time with them. You know, and it's really, I think another unique aspect is the fact that with beef cows, you know, they stick around in our herd for a long time. We actually got a lot of cows. Brittany said I was in 4-H, and 4-H is just an opportunity for kids anywhere from 9 to 18 to get involved with animals, whether you come from a background with it or not. There's lots of opportunities, even if you have no experience with, you know, cattle or sheep or pigs or horses, there's opportunities for you. So it's really a great opportunity. It's not just livestock. There's tons of, you could take sewing. I took sewing one year. There's cooking. So there's a lot of opportunities. But I think the most unique thing is just the way these animals really depend on us. And like I said, I just don't think people traditionally think of having, you know, a cow as like a companion animal, but in a way they really are. And they really, I think, have that bond with us. They understand, and, you know, they really trust us that we're going to feed them. We're going to take care of them. You know, and I think we kind of have that mutual respect for each other. So
thank you so much for that, Kirsten. That was awesome. All right, so I'm going to give a little intro for Brian now. So Brian just graduated this past spring from Ohio State. So his degree is in environment, economics, and development and sustainability. So he is currently a social media analyst for several fitness facilities in Powell. And he also teaches Zumba and bar workouts. So Brian is actually going to talk to us about some of his animals today. So we're going to turn it over to him to learn about some of his species.
Hi guys, thanks for having me. So yeah, I have a bunch of weird animals and people always ask me why. So I guess it started in high school. I always wanted to live on a farm. We lived in the suburbs of Cleveland. So I kind of wanted chickens, but I knew chickens were really big and smelly, and I don't think my parents would have liked that. So I did some research and figured out that quail were kind of a cool alternative. So I have chicks over here. I might pull them out in a second. They really hate people, so they're not great to handle. But I have ducks here. They're gonna jump out of their bin. But anyways, so yeah, I got quail in high school. Had those for a couple years, went to school, didn't have animals. And then after I graduated, I was talking to my roommates and I was like, you know what, we should do something fun. Let's get quail. And so they all agreed. So quail are basically tiny little birds. They look like miniature chickens, I guess. I have them for eggs. All the roommates kind of pitch in. We, you know, clean their cage and we collect eggs every night and put them away. But then this summer I had babysat one of my mom's friend's ducks named Earl, and he was really cool. I garden a lot, so I basically just had him outside in the backyard when I garden every day. And I was like, you know what, I think I could do this. So I decided just to get ducks. People were like, why don't you get a dog? And I have a dog named Bailey also. She's around somewhere. But I always wanted chickens, and I felt like ducks were kind of a good alternative as well. I heard that they were kind of nice too. So I ordered eggs on eBay. I already had incubators. So in June, I incubated a couple eggs, and July 3rd, 2 ducklings hatched. And basically they just kind of followed me everywhere. it was in the middle of quarantine, so I had all the time in the world, and I basically just hung out with them all day, and they would follow me around. They imprinted, so they, you know, attached. They thought I was their mother. They still kind of do. They follow me around the garden. I'm gonna pull out one. They're kind of, hi Daisy, it's okay. So this is Daisy, and my dog's barking. Shh, baby, you're fine. So yeah, this is Daisy. They are both Welsh Harlequin females. She has her little bandana on. It's monogrammed with her name on it. But yeah, so they're a lot of fun. They follow me around the garden. I built a little swimming pool back there for them. So every other day I clean out their pool. I tell people I just want to be as happy as my ducks when they get fresh water in their pool. They kind of splash around, and it's really fun to see. So they're pretty friendly. They follow me around still. I'll go to the front yard to weed the garden or the front beds, and they'll follow me to the front yard, and little kids in the neighborhood will be like, oh my gosh, why is there a duck? But they're pretty fun. They're pretty chill. They're not super handsy, so holding them is kind of a lot. They don't love it. Yes, I hear you. They're looking at each other. I have two females because they're very social animals, so they kind of follow each other around. But yeah, they're not indoor ducks. They are a little bit too smelly for that. I basically just leave them outside. They peruse the garden. They dig things up. They like to follow me around, hoping that I dig up worms for them. I often do. I have tomatoes that I use to keep them calm. You can see they're kind of crazy. It's okay. Okay. But yeah, basically birds are just kind of interesting. I have a dog, so I kind of have, you know, that pet that I can cuddle up with at night, but ducks are kind of a cool alternative if you know, just want something in your backyard that kind of keep you company. I use their pool water to water all of my garden. People ask me why my sunflowers get super tall, and it's duck poop. That's what I tell them. Yeah, I don't know if there's anything else. Maybe I'll go get a chick real quick. They're kind of small. There we go. Okay. So this is a quail chick. These ones are a week old. So I hatch them a couple times a year. And the quail are basically for eggs, but we do eat meat quail. So we will butcher them occasionally. I am vegetarian other than eating things that I've raised myself. So that's kind of my little thing. But yeah, this is basically what I do in my backyard. I don't have a large yard by any means. So if people are interested in ducks, it's definitely doable.
I'm assuming that, yeah, they can sense it if you've had seizures before. Now that's just, I mean, you would have to, I guess, do some type of study to officially be able to say, yes, absolutely, you know, the cats are doing that because of the seizures. But I mean, just from hearing that story, I know of dogs, I don't know of cats specifically, but there are dogs that are specifically trained for that role. So I think that, you know, cats are obviously very smart animals, and yeah, I would, you know, I can't definitively say that that's exactly what that is, but to me, that sounds like that's possible.
Quail are a lot smaller, so an adult quail is basically like the size of a softball. Yes. But yeah, they don't smell as bad, and you can kind of keep them in like a little rabbit coop or a rabbit hutch. I have ours in a rabbit hutch that they can walk out onto the grass like a little bit, but yeah, they're a lot easier, I think, than chickens.
Now maybe more natural, but I don't think it was at first. You know, there's a lot of distractions going on around us all of the time. You know, we have cell phones that we're very connected to. We have TVs that we're watching. So for me, when I go outside, I kind of just try to unplug and just kind of take everything in, just listen to what's going on around me. You know, one of the things that I enjoy doing is bird watching. And I think sometimes we don't even realize that birds are all around us. You know, some of us do if you like birds, like Brian. But, you know, when you're just walking outside, you might not look up in the trees, but you'll be surprised to find that there's lots of, you know, wildlife all around us. And interactions don't have to be in person. I think that's important too. You know, you can have an indirect animal interaction by just watching something on TV. But yeah, I would say being mindful just takes kind of, I guess, being aware of your surroundings and just stopping and taking a moment of what's going on around you.
I don't think so. I mean, other than animal hoarding, I think gardening is my therapy, and my ducks are kind of just there to kind of watch me do it, which is kind of a nice way to have an animal present, but without being like too much. But I also have a dog, so I like too much also.
Yeah, so it's kind of a good point you bring up, because obviously it's no surprise that a farm animal is different than your dog. And I think that my dog, you know, my job with her is still to feed her and take care of her and play with her, but it's more of a one-on-one level. I think when you get with on-farm animals, it's taking care of a group and being mindful of, you know, with animals, we talk a lot about herd behaviors and, you know, flight zones. And I think when you're talking about farm animals, I guess in my mind, it's more being mindful of those sorts of things, their natural abilities, their natural tendencies. And to me, that's what's kind of relaxing about it, is getting outside of your own mind, where I think dogs are kind of one-on-one with us. They're, you know, you talk to them happy, they're going to be happy. A cow doesn't really give you that feedback. So I guess from my standpoint, I think that's where I kind of separate myself, like with my dog versus the cattle.
I think it's a positive experience. I don't have expectations about what an animal should provide me. So if someone gets a quail and they're like, well, I want it to, you know, sleep with me at night, then they might be unhappy. But I kind of let animals do what they do. I was pleasantly surprised with these two that they still kind of enjoy my company and they still follow me around. But I think as far as quail, just watching them interact and run around and take dust baths, I think is good enough for me.
So lots of things to unpack with that question. So yeah, I mean, you know, if you think that you do want a pet, you know, you're ready, you feel like you've saved up enough money, then I think that's great. But I suggest maybe doing some research about different types of pets that you can have. You know, we saw today that there are many different species that we can share these interactions and these relationships with. And, you know, it really has to make sense for your situation. So for me, when I was younger, I only had cats for a while, and I love my cats. But when I reached the point where I knew that I could financially provide for a dog, as well as had the time to give the dog the care that it requires, you know, that's when I took the step to move to a dog. But there are, you know, all kinds of species that you can start with. Dr. George mentioned, you know, keeping fish at home or dwarf hamsters. Those are some pretty, say, easy species to take care of, if you want to call it easy, but those are kind of good starter animals. And just thinking about dogs specifically, there's different breeds that have different energy levels. Like bear, not so much energy, but there are some breeds that, you know, require a lot. They need a big space to run. They need to go on lots of walks. So I would suggest just, you know, doing your homework, looking at different options, before you make that choice, because, you know, we don't ever want to run into a situation where you get an animal and then you realize, oh no, you know, this wasn't the best option. We have a website, which is just chaire.osu.edu. And I'm sure we can provide you with that information. On our website, you can also become, we call it a friend of CHAIRE, which you'll just provide your email, and then I will send you our monthly newsletter, as well as just updates about events in the future. So there, I would say start with that. That way you can stay connected to us. We also have a YouTube channel, which you can find through our website as well, that talks about some of the opportunities that we've held in the past, as well as some ongoing research projects that we're currently conducting. But yeah, I would say, you know, there's definitely opportunities in the future. We are very interested in continuing this relationship with everyone. As far as connecting with livestock animals, oh, perfect, thank you. It is now in the chat. As far as connecting with livestock animals, there is not an opportunity through CHAIRE right now, but I will say that now I'm not sure when it's going to be done, but our college, the College of Food, Agricultural, and Environmental Sciences, was building a multi-species facility that was going to have those opportunities for interactions. I am not sure if the construction is still happening currently, but I know that it's going to be happening in the future. So those are, you know, some other opportunities that we hopefully can be a part of. Yeah, we did another event that we did in the past. We did a student health event right before finals, where we had different species in our building, where we had some dogs, which actually they were 4-paws therapy dogs that were there, or I'm sorry, 4-H therapy dogs were there. And then we had some goats and miniature donkeys and some chickens as well. So we're definitely, you know, we definitely want to hold another event like that in the future, where people can just kind of come, mingle, de-stress, maybe meet species that they haven't been around before. So yeah, I would say, you know, go to our website, become a friend of CHAIRE. I manage our email, so you can also just send us an email. It's just chaire@osu.edu if you have any further questions. But yeah, we're definitely interested in engaging with everyone in the future.